Good morning, fellow commissioners. Assistant Chief Chow, Acting Executive Director Django Sibley, Madam Secretary, Acting Inspector General Brian Buckner, Mr. City Attorney Carlos de la Guerra, and members of the public. Today is Tuesday, September 17th, 2024. It is 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect Commissioners Shields, Calanche, and Garcia are present, and we have a quorum. Madam Vice President.
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this morning, both in person and online. We want to ensure all members of the public can access our meetings, so if you need any translation services or accommodations, we encourage you to contact the board secretary in advance of our meetings as explained in our written agenda. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. We welcome feedback from the public during public comment period, which will be heard during item number 2 on the agenda. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board. You can speak to any item on the agenda or any matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. As explained in the written agenda, each member of the public can have a total of up to 3 minutes to speak if you wish to speak on both agenda items and general public comment. While we welcome public attendance at our meetings, disruptive behavior will not be tolerated and will be cause for removal. You will receive just one warning, and if you continue disrupting the meeting, you will be asked to leave and be removed from the meeting. Before moving to item number 1 of the agenda, I want to note that pursuant to Government Code Section 54953, President Suthers has notified us of his need to participate remotely for just cause. In this case, just cause is a physical disability as defined in Government Code Section 12926. President Suthers will only be participating remotely for closed session agenda items 5A through 5C. President Suthers will join the meeting briefly before we recess into closed session in accordance with Government Code Section 54953. We also have one modification to the agenda. The department has pulled item 4C from the agenda, and it will be rescheduled for a future commission meeting. So at this time, we will move to item number 1 on the agenda, the report of the Chief of Police, Assistant Chief Chow.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, Vice President Shields, Commissioner Calanche, Commissioner Garcia, Acting Inspector General Buckner, Deputy City Attorney de la Guerra, and Mr. Sibley. Today, I will be discussing significant events from the previous week, providing a crime update, and discussing a personnel strength. The first item I'd like to discuss is our officer-involved shooting in North Hollywood on September 16th, 2024 at about approximately 4:50 in the morning. North Hollywood Division uniformed officers responded to a radio call of an assault with a deadly weapon with a firearm at 12121 Victory Boulevard. Witnesses indicated that the suspect, later identified as Sean Griffin, had shot into an occupied vehicle, striking the victim. As the officers entered the intersection of Victory Boulevard and Bellingham, they encountered Griffin armed with a firearm. Griffin pointed the firearm at the officers, and an officer-involved shooting occurred. Griffin fled on foot as additional units began to arrive in the area. Additional officers encountered Griffin running on Bellingham Avenue, still armed with a firearm, where a second officer-involved shooting occurred. Griffin continued running, armed, into a nearby multi-story parking structure. Officers again encountered Griffin in the parking structure, where he pointed his firearm toward the officers, and a third officer-involved shooting occurred. Griffin was struck by gunfire and taken into custody. The officers rendered aid to Griffin until the arrival of Los Angeles Fire Department, but he was pronounced deceased at the scene. A Davis Industry Model AP380 firearm, loaded with 1 round in the chamber and 2 rounds in the magazine, was located next to Griffin, and 5 additional live rounds were recovered from his person. The firearm was recovered and booked as evidence. Officers attempted to render aid to the victim of the original assault with a deadly weapon shooting call, who suffered a gunshot wound to the head. The victim was determined to be deceased at scene. Investigators from Operations Valley Bureau Homicide responded and conducted the homicide investigation involving the victim. No other community members or officers were injured as a result of this incident. Force Investigation Division responded to the scene and are investigating the incident. Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office also responded. We have had 22 officer-involved shootings year-to-date in comparison to 25 last year, reflecting a 12% decrease. I also wanted to talk about a couple of significant events. You may have seen these on the media. There was a West Los Angeles follow-home robbery on September 13th, 2024 at approximately 16:20 hours. Uniformed officers from West Los Angeles Division responded to a radio call regarding an assault with a deadly weapon shooting at the 11,000 block of Thurston Circle. Upon arrival, the officers found the victim on the ground with a gunshot wound to his jaw and arm. Officers immediately administered CPR, successfully reviving the victim, who had stopped breathing and was unconscious. He was transported to a hospital in critical condition. But the preliminary investigation revealed that earlier in the day, the victim and his girlfriend had returned home after lunch in West Hollywood. As they parked in the driveway, they were confronted by 4 male suspects. The suspects demanded both victims hand over the jewelry, while victim 2 complied. Victim 1, who possessed a concealed weapons permit, attempted to unholster but was shot by one of the suspects. Our detectives from a robbery homicide division are currently investigating the case and working to bring those to justice. You also probably saw on the news the Bunker Hill fire on September 13th, 2024 at 03:30 hours. Central Patrol, along with the Los Angeles Fire Department, responded to a multi-structure fire at 877 North Bunker Hill. The fire involved 4 apartment complexes, leaving a significant impact on the community. 6 individuals were injured in the fire, which included 2 residents and 4 firefighters. Detectives from our Major Crimes Division, working alongside LAFD arson investigators, arrived at the scene, and due to the seriousness of the injuries sustained by the residents, detectives from our Robbery Homicide Division also joined the investigation. After a thorough examination, LAFD and the ATF officials determined that the fire was deliberately set. Investigators have developed a strong lead on the suspect and are hopeful that the arrest will be made soon. However, the impact on the community has been profound. Initially, 51 residents were displaced from 3 separate apartment buildings. I visited the site on Sunday morning. Of the 51 displaced, 5 remain in the evacuation center. Residents are primarily non-English speaking. Council District 1 is looking for more permanent housing, as the red tag is expected to last several months. Unfortunately, on September 14th, 3 of the affected residents were victims of a burglary. Captain Jovel from Central Area, along with Central Senior Lead Officers, Patrol Watches, Chinatown Business Improvement District, and Private Security, are coordinating security to prevent any of the units from being broken into further. Next, I'll discuss a couple of great community events that occurred last week. The first was as we welcome the Olympics to Los Angeles, the 2028 Olympic and Paralympic flag installation. On September 12th, I had the honor of attending the historic installation of the Olympic and Paralympic flags at Los Angeles City Hall. The momentous event brought together athletes from both the Olympics and Paralympics alongside our mayor, civic leaders, and members of the LA 28 organizing committee. The flag installation marked a significant milestone in our city, celebrating the return of the Olympic flag for the first time since 1984, and the arrival of the Paralympic flag for the first time ever. We're underway in planning with our federal, state, and local partners in the 2028 Olympics and Paralympics under the NSSE and the LA 28 City Director, Councilmember Paul Krikorian. Heart of Walk LA on September 14th, our department proudly hosted the 7th annual Heart of LA Walk, an event dedicated to raising awareness about mental health and well-being in both sworn and civilian personnel. It was truly inspiring to witness the strong turnout of over 500 department employees, civic leaders, commissioners, and representatives from various outside agencies, all coming together in support of the important issue. This September marks Suicide Awareness Month, and this event served as a powerful reminder that asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. The day kicked off with a 5K walk, followed by a pancake breakfast and featured sponsor booths providing resources and supporting for all attendees. Next, I'll transition into a brief report on the Encino and Brentwood burglary series that has been reported in the media, plus also on our radar in the last several weeks. I want to start with a burglary comparison. For the 4-week period from August 18th to September 14th, compared to the previous 4 weeks of July 21st to August 17th, there has been a positive trend in reducing residential burglaries in several areas across the city. Operations Valley Bureau residential burglaries have decreased by 2.3%. West Valley area, the burglaries are down 12%. Fewer, and residential burglaries have dropped significantly by 50%. In the Encino neighborhood has shown an even more dramatic decline, with burglaries down by 52% and residential burglaries down by 57%. Operations West Bureau, there has been a 14% increase in burglaries. Despite the positive trends within specific areas of Operations West Bureau, West Los Angeles burglaries are down 2.7%. Residential burglaries have decreased 21%. And in particular, the Brentwood area has seen a substantial decrease in burglaries, down by 68%, and residential burglaries in the Brentwood area are down by 73%. The Metropolitan Division Deployment and Detective Bureau response has been a key component in those reduction numbers. The reductions in burglaries in both Encino and Brentwood over the 8-week period occurred for one reason: officers deployed to the problem area doing their jobs, reducing crime. The goals of the metropolitan deployment was twofold. First, to improve the feeling of safety in the respective neighborhoods, and second, to identify leads and attempts to identify crews responsible for the burglaries. Since early August, Metropolitan's Divisions B and C platoons have been assigned to the neighborhood, experiencing the uptick in burglaries, and using a combination of undercover surveillance, investigative techniques, and crime suppression efforts. They've been instrumental in both identifying and apprehending suspects, as well as deterring future criminal activity. Crime, as far as the week ending September 14th, I'll start with the analysis for our crime is based on the offense count. Year to date, for the week ending September 14th, 2024, there have been 91,676 persons and property crimes citywide. From our homicide analysis, homicides have been trending down since the week of March 16th, 2024. In the past 27 weeks, our year-to-date increase has seen a decrease ranging from plus 30 earlier in the year to minus 7%. Compared to 2023, the city has seen a year-to-date decrease of 7% in homicides. Compared to 2022, the city has seen a 29% decrease in homicides. From our victim shot analysis, the year-to-date citywide, the victim shot is down 12% compared to 2023 and down 27% compared to 2022. For the past 4 weeks, ending in September 14th, 2024, there has been a decrease of 25% in our victim shot from the prior 4-week period. Aggravated assault for the past 4 weeks, for the period ending on September 14th, 2024, our aggravated assaults are down 6.7% compared to the prior 4-week ending in August 17th, 2024. As far as our robberies are concerned, for the past 4 weeks ending September 14th, 2024, robberies are down 3% compared to the 4 weeks ending in August 17, 2024. However, compared to the 4 weeks before that, of July 20, 2024, robberies are down 8%. There have been 125 robberies with firearm, representing 19% of our total robberies. Firearms recovered are down approximately 8% year-to-date through August 31st. Motor vehicle theft for the past 4 weeks, motor vehicle theft is down 4% compared to the 4 weeks ending in August 17th. However, compared to the 4 weeks before that, ending in July 20th, motor vehicle thefts are down 8%. Our top stolen vehicles in the city still continue to be Kias, Chevrolets, and Hyundais. Our personnel strength as of September 16th, 2024, our personnel strength is at 8,788. We are 55 above our sworn authorities of 8,733. Civilian staffing is at 2,601. We're 24 under our civilian staffing authorities of 2,625. And our reserve officers stand at 378. And that ends my report.
Thank you, Assistant Chief Chow. I'll turn to my commissioners for questions. Commissioner Kalanche.
Thank you, Chief. Just a clarifying question, or I guess more information. You said for sworn, we're 55 over our authority?
Yes, our table of organization stands at, which is basically what we are budgeted for. It stands at.
Is it like year-to-date? Is that what it is?
It's the total number of sworn that we are authorized to have.
In our budget?
In our budget. And we're over 55 right now, but that will probably correct itself due to attrition and hiring.
Okay. That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
That's done, thank you.
Thank you. And one question related to the officer-involved shooting in the North Hollywood area that I believe occurred yesterday. Was the person that was involved, I think he was the one that eventually was shot by police officers, was he the suspect of a murder in the same parking lot?
Yes. Yes, the officers actually almost rolled up on the crime as it was happening. That's how the encounter started.
And that, because I saw some reports that there was, someone found in the vehicle, basically with a bullet to the head, and that was associated with a crime that occurred right before the officers arrived on the scene.
That's correct. The original shooting with the original victim that was in the car generated a radio call, which caused the officers to respond there, which kind of set in motion the incidents that resulted in the officer-involved shooting.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And just a couple of them, thank you for the report. It's terrible to hear that fire was set intentionally. That's devastating to hear. It's always terrible when any fires occur, but to know that was something set intentionally and has displaced so many residents is heartbreaking. So hopefully the department, the fire department, and everyone else is doing everything they can to catch those perpetrators. And the same with, it's good to hear that there's a downward trend in the number of burglaries and robberies, and that, but we still had the follow home robbery that resulted in a victim being shot, which is,
Yes.
It undermines all of the great work that we're doing, because again, people are not feeling safe if that's what they're coming home to. And I hope that the department's doing everything they can to catch those perpetrators as well.
Yeah, robbery homicide is the original entity that handled all the follow homes earlier in the year. So they picked this one up too, because there were some similarities with the patterns that we saw earlier in the year. I am 100% confident we'll get the suspect in custody.
Thank you. And thank you for mentioning the Heart of LAPD walk. I had the fortune of attending that, and I do think it was a great program that the department does to demystify and embrace the concept of mental health and suicide awareness. And I think that's something that's very important for the department to know that everyone cares. And special thanks to Dr. Dorian for helping spearhead that effort. I think it is something that makes LAPD unique. So thank you. Okay, with that, we will move on to item number 2 on the agenda, public comment. Madam Secretary, please call on the first speaker.
The first speaker is Mr. Herman.
Mr. Herman, if you want to come up and make a comment, you should do so now.
Can you not fucking wait? Can you not fucking wait? Start the fucking clock. I don't give a fuck. It's just time. It's just time. Time to report crime. Not that I'm going around collecting donations. in support of my special interest group like you did with Steve Soboroff. How long did we have to wait for the former police commissioner to leave? Get the fuck out of here with all your development stealing in Los Angeles. Matter of fact, federal judge Carter O. David said, fuck Steve Soboroff. And I'll read it into the record. I want to get this done without all these fucking privileged people going to their fucking privileged lawyers and going to their fucking privileged senators, going to their fucking privileged council members, and going to their fucking Congress, Mr. Acting Inspector General. Did you read this content? It's real shit. The same shit that you allowed that fucking dick Jose Luis Huizar to make me homeless. The same motherfucker who's now gonna serve a federal 13 years for crimes against the public, the disabled population. You think I fucking care? Fuck Huizar. That's how much I care. Matter of fact, fuck the mayor. Matter of fact. By the way, privileged people, fuck you too. Tired of you robbing us, the public, the minority. Just because you have guns, you want to shoot a minority. Just because you believe you're privileged, you can shoot a minority. Is that right, Mr. Guerra? Isn't that what federal judge was talking about? Veterans, homeless people, and population of disabled, that you motherfuckers keep stealing our fucking money with that fucking dumb president bitch who violates my First Amendment by having me assaulted, attacked at this fucking podium for my belief. My belief is totally different from yours. That's right, I'm a dirty nigger. And it's not offensive, it's a fact. Send the Jews back to Israel and fight your own bloody fucking war. I'm fighting my homeless war here.
Mr. Herman, that's not relevant.
I'm dealing with crime and homelessness. It's very relevant.
You're
And
off
you
topic.
keep stealing from us
Off
the
topic.
way that fucking Israel's stealing from us too. I'm on topic. It's a crime. Save America. Find us a chief. And once again, and for the record, 42 U.S.C. 1983, fuck you. Brandenburg versus Ohio, a dirty nigger. Relevant.
Again,
On record,
please
sir.
sit down, sir, and apologize to people listening and people here in the room for having to hear that offensive comments. Next speaker, please.
Caller 1264.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, commissioners and police chief. This is James. I had a problem yesterday. I've had the police go out there several times. We have large food encampments blocking the sidewalk. And yesterday I was assaulted by one of what I suspect to be a gang member, which I always get on the phone. How do you know he's a gang member? He looks like a gang member to me because I'm surrounded by gang members. We're surrounded by criminals. It doesn't matter where you go or what you do. And I wanted to ask the chief if it has to do with the policies that you've been working under, because I've never seen anything like what we're experiencing now. Just the other, I don't know how long ago it was, but over in San Fernando, we had a person walk into an auto parts store and shoot somebody in the head. This was right across the street from where the gang member who kidnapped that woman and killed her, the one with 2 children, and burned her body and dropped her off in Bakersfield. What the hell is going on? I mean, I just can't believe that it's like we're not being
Sorry.
Hello?
Ladies, if you want to make a
Oh.
conversation, please go outside. Otherwise, please have the decency of listening to the comments. Thank you. Please continue.
It's like nothing's being enforced. So obviously, when nothing's being enforced and you have criminals that are coming out of prison, they're going to do what they normally do, bad things. And we're the ones who get the impact. We're the ones who get affected by it. We don't have the protections that you have. We don't have the bulletproof vest. We don't have the tasers. We don't have the pepper spray. We don't have the guns. We don't have those things.
Sir, this is your
We
first
rely on
warning.
you to
You are
do.
not allowed to put signs up in this boardroom. That's your first and final warning. Sorry. Thank you, Secretary. Please leave alone.
Yeah, we rely on you, Chief, you and your organization and your institution to protect us. But you're not. And obviously that's probably why what happened to that fitness guy in Bel Air, where he was robbed and shot, probably why he got killed, because we're not doing the things that we're supposed to. I have so much more, but that's all for now. Thank you.
All right. People in the room, if you are, hey, you, Mr. Reedy, this is your first warning, both of you. Mr. Reedy? Excuse me, sir, I don't know your name. Your name in the back. You in the back, please stop talking. Mr. Reedy? Mr. Herman, you can leave. Hey, okay. Mr. Reedy, please step aside. You, sir, let's just take a breath. You, sir, please stop talking or you will leave. This is your first and only warning. I do not care. If you have a complaint, you can talk to one of the officers. Do not talk to other people that are in this room. Otherwise, take it outside. Mr. Reedy? Good. I'm defending my child. Mr. Reedy, no more talking. Otherwise, I'm going to have to ask you to leave as well. So if anyone in this room has a problem, please speak to one of the officers and do not speak to each other. Otherwise, you will both be asked to leave.
Also direct people to not talk to his kid and not interact with his kid.
That should be basic.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry, Madam Secretary, please call the next speaker.
The next speaker is Raul Macias.
Good morning, Assistant Chief Chow and the commission. I was here 2 weeks ago to express my concern about what's going on at our house. My landlady has been reduced to being a hooker for one of our former residents. She is actually visiting this guy after the coward had his girlfriend move out, okay? He wouldn't come to the house to move his stuff out. He's a warlock. What he's done, he's put a hex on our landlady. She's 75 years old. What I'd like to do, I've had Adult Protective Services come out. All she has to say is Raul, me, is crazy. And they say, okay, let's go home, right? They've had major adult crimes, which is a joke. I'm requesting that Vargas be fired over there at Northeast. Also, the officers that come out that exhibit a lot of machismo, a bunch of Chicanos, like I'm Chicano, I'm not racist. These people have no business dealing with this situation. They just tell me it's consensual, a 75-year-old woman having sex with a 30-year-old pervert who's a Satanist named Sean Huber, and Buer, I should say, I'm sorry. And I want you folks to pick this guy up. This is what I wanted to ask the chief. And I'm asking you, Assistant Chief Chow, to pick up Sean Buer and question him on what he's been doing to this poor Korean woman. She doesn't speak a lot of English. What he's done, he's put a hex on her because she tried to enforce house rules on him. He didn't appreciate it because what he is a racist German kid, and they're 30 years old. Him and his girlfriend are abusing this woman physically and sexually. She's going to their apartment after he's left because she told me on the 10th of September. Sean and his girlfriend are mad at you. I said, are you still seeing this guy, landlady? You're following him to the apartment. You see, he's got a hex on her. Now, I'll tell you, on the 13th of September, she got all dolled up at 7 a.m. Beautiful woman. She doesn't look 75. She looks like she's 60, 65. She went out. I don't know where the hell she goes in that Venza. She just sped out of there. She came back. When I came back at 6 p.m., you guys, are you ready for this? She was like a zombie, man, with no makeup. And can I just show you the way she was walking? Look at this. Now, you might laugh, but look at this. This is Satanism. I said, ma'am, what's wrong with you? I'm talking. Now, look, what this guy did, what I believe, I said, did you go to the doctors? Why are you walking? Talk to me. I believe this guy, she went to the apartment, and he had a few of his friends over. They passed her around, man. Her legs were spread open, walking down the street.
Okay, sir, your time is up. Next speaker, please.
Can I get one of the, excuse me, can I have one of the officers please make contact with him and get his information? Thank you.
Next, we have Betty Lay.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
I'd like to speak on everything.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Okay. First off, I support the agenda item donations. Also, I want to know, Chief Choi, so apparently you haven't given any recommendations to the Board of Rights, or I feel you would have answered my email, which you did not. Not sure how you'll be able to leave the department with a clear conscience. Due to now, the department will be removing vice units from each division and then have only one unit per bureau. That's not going to go well around the schools and for our children and our grandchildren. I just don't get it. You were so personal in the beginning, but somewhere along the way, you turned into a not care person. I just don't get it. And apparently now the judge has refused LAPD officers to dismiss their charges regarding protection from all this. That's not right either. I just don't get what's going on. The department is going to hell, and apparently you're retiring with a clear conscience. That can't be right. I just don't get it. I wish you would answer my email. Thank you very much, and I yield the rest of my time.
The next speaker, please, Hassan Tron.
Good morning, everybody. Is my name Hassan Tran. I'm here today. Can you put my name in U.S. government system? Thank you.
Next, we have Andrew Grabner.
I will speak to all items.
3 minutes.
All right, starting off with the chief's report. And yes, you're gonna hear some noise because you schedule these meetings at the same time. So you trying to run me over? Your cops just tried to run me over at City Hall, by the way. So starting off with the chief's report should be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at every meeting. If the chief's report exceeds 3 minutes, we should be able to match the amount of time the chief took, regardless of how long the chief takes. Everyone should be able to speak both in person and on the phone. Let's move on to the consent agenda. All right, hang on. Let me pull up this consent agenda. We got a lot of crap on it today. So we have the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have a donation for more training so that you can train your officers to be more violent. We have the selective traffic enforcement program grant. Makes sense since we know you're very selective in enforcing traffic rule violation laws. We have a money. We have $2,800 for these books. Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement by Dr. Kevin M. Gilmartin. I'm gonna look that guy up. So I wonder if there's something going on with that guy. You're getting a donation of like 160 of those books. We have, let's see, we've got $4,000 for wellness, nothing buys wellness, like $4,000. $2,500 for food. What are you eating? What are you eating at this event? We have $650 for a holiday party. We have, yeah, but you have the results of the chief of police survey. We don't know who you're considering, but you have the results of it. And it's interesting you're doing this now because I thought you already selected your nominees. Not that we know who they are because you refused to tell us, but we know that we got the results of it now. You know, so getting that after you've decided, and we didn't have those while we were to help us with public comment. We still don't know who you're picking. Who are you considering for chief of police? You won't tell us. Why does it need to be secretive? You get like 3 candidates, just tell us who they are. But you don't want to do that because you want to just be able to select it, and we're just supposed to not actually have any say in who it is. So yeah, and would your cops stop harassing Jason and his baby in the room? It sounds like that was what was going on again earlier. So why don't you stop allowing that?
The next speaker is Love Israel.
Good morning. My name is Love Israel, Love Jamie, because Jamie love Israel.
Sir, we've already warned you in the past that you do not use other people's names. So if you want to use a fake name, use John Doe, and that's it. I don't want to hear other people's names that are in this room being mentioned by you.
Okay, my name is Love Israeli. That's what she said. Whose name is Israeli? Can you explain that? Whose name is Israeli? He just called Israeli, so I'm here. So I don't know what if you understand English or if you have some English listening comprehension issues because she called Israeli. I'm here to talk about several concerns. First of all, the chief said authorized number of LAPD officer is 8,800. That is a very interesting number because before the pandemic is like 10,300. During the pandemic, 9,800, 9,500, 9,200, and right now somehow he said the authorized budgeted position is down to 8,000 something. So seems like next year will be 7,000. Seems like next year will be 6,000. Seems like immediately that is what all of the looter, rioter, criminals asked for, defund the police. I think this has become a reality. It seems like when everybody concerned, some certain fake name commissioners asking about, so concerned about the robbery, so concerned about shooting. Well, when you are losing 1,000 officers every 2 or 3 years, when you are losing, long, high seniority detective moving to other high-paid department, when you are losing those experienced officer or getting a private job because of a better pay, better benefit, well, there's no surprise that there's no officer wants to work here. There's no surprise that we're losing so many officers. detective, undercover, whatever, captain, lieutenant, whatever, all of those. But it seems like everybody right here are still confused, like, oh, what's going on? Why we have so many robbery? Oh my God, what's going on? Where's another officer involved shooting? Well, when you have on the bus, when you have people can randomly showing the police their middle finger, when you have a culture in Los Angeles where you can literally saying whatever profanity in front of a police officer without being punished, without having any sort of consequence. When you have a little kids on the street, when you have a little kids on the bus, just using profanity words against all of the police and everything. When you have that culture, when they grow up, everybody will be anti-police. So it feels like this is a common sense, but somehow our commissioner is like so confused. And then at the end, I don't understand what's the issue, but I love Jamie so much, and I will continue to love Jamie.
All right, sir, you're done.
Next, we have caller ending 1310. Caller 1310.
All items.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Good morning to the press, the police commission, Chief Troy, and the people of Los Angeles. I'm here to address a critical issue that threatens the core of our police department, blatant cheating on the recent sergeant's exam. It's not a rumor. This is a calculated attempt by certain individuals to manipulate the promotional process for personal gain, happening right under our noses. During the exam, we saw an alarming trend. As the day progressed, scores skyrocketed, particularly in the later sessions. Officers were suddenly achieving unprecedented scores in the upper 90s, skewing the entire bell curve, causing those who played by the rules to fail. Multiple officers have already been caught sharing answers. This is not just misconduct, this is corruption, and it threatens the integrity of the LAPD's future leadership. But what's worse is the silence from the LAPPL. Instead of addressing this scandal that directly impacts the careers of hardworking officers, the LAPPL has focused on protecting its own leadership. Directors like Craig Lally and Jamie McBride, whose corruption is becoming more apparent by the day. Instead of confronting the cheating head-on, they've distracted us with false accusations against Commander Lillian Carrazza. Let me be clear, these accusations are baseless. Commander Carrazza is being simply targeted because she had the courage to file a complaint against Craig Lally. Carrazza is a hero to the members of the public and a hero to the officers. The LAPPL has chosen to use these fabricated accusations to create distraction, all while real corruption fosters under their new leadership. Their focus on shielding Lally and McBride shows exactly where their priorities lie. Not with the officers they're supposed to represent, but with preserving their own power. Chief Troy, Police Commission, this is your moment to take a stand. We cannot allow a few dishonest officers cheat their way into positions of authority while those who did the right thing are penalized. And we certainly cannot allow the LAPPL's corrupt leadership to continue bearing the truth. We urge you to open an independent investigation free from LAPPL interference, hold every individual involved accountable. Los Angeles deserves a police department that operates with transparency, fairness, and honor, free from the shadow of corruption. Anything less is betrayal of our duty to the city, the citizens. The time for silence and distractions is over. We must act now to restore the public's trust.
The next speaker is Megan.
I just want to say again, like how dismaying it is to watch, somebody be escorted out for bringing up legitimate concerns about Errol's actual record and his activities at USC, but you can't escort somebody out for using racial slurs. Make it make sense. So I'm going to talk mostly today about Django's book report on the Chief of Police Selection Process Survey and Community Input Meeting Results. It reminds me of my own 8th grade book reports where I double spaced everything and made the margins really big in order to have a bigger page count. And I'd start every paragraph with, in this paragraph, I will talk about. Yeah, it really aptly represents exactly how many shits this commission gives about who the community wants for chief or whether they want one at all. So I was struck by one of the survey questions, the top quality that Angelinos, and you surveyed 0.03% of Angelinos, by the way. The number one quality they want is integrity, trustworthiness, fairness, honesty, and transparency. And it reminded me that I had this really incredible zine that the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition published a couple years ago, a chief by chief history of LAPD community policing and counterinsurgency. It's on their website. Lots of good information in there about the integrity, trustworthiness, fairness, honesty, and transparency of LAPD chiefs going back 100 years. Let's see how many I can get through before my time runs out. We'll start with 1924, August Vollmer, the father of modern policing. He was the first person to require training for cops, and that training included topics like eugenics, race degeneration. 1950, William Parker actively recruited KKK members from the South to join the LAPD. 1969, Ed Davis, a vocal homophobe who advocated for conversion therapy for gay people, who also created the TRASH unit, which stands for Total Resources Against Street Hoodlums, targeting young Black and brown Angelinos under the guise of combating gang activity. TRASH was eventually changed to the more pleasing CRASH, Community Resources Against Street Hoodlums, and remember that, we're coming back to it. 1978, Daryl Gates, who said regarding the deaths of several Black people due to LAPD chokeholds, he said that Blacks might be more likely to die from chokeholds because their arteries do not open as fast. Really fucked up. He helped create a video game with grossly racist depictions of Black people in it. But I can't even get through all of it. 1997, Bernard Parks, he tried to cover up what's now known as the Ramparts scandal. The Ramparts Division's crash unit planted evidence, robbed banks, trafficked drugs, and terrorized the community. His attempts at...
Thank you. Your time is up. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Matios Kadane.
My name is Matias with the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition. At the very top, I want to uplift the fact that LAPD got into a shootout the other day, which led to 2 individuals dying, including a bystander who was just sitting in their car. But that's the violence we expect from this department. On the agenda today is a response to the City Council motion requesting where real-time crime centers would begin. And lo and behold, the commission has said it is Central Division, which should come as no surprise. Central really is the testing ground for, well, the people patrolled by Central Division really are the testing ground for all these new technologies. And so I think it's important to kind of remember how we got to this point of real-time crime centers being implemented. And just to backtrack a little bit, in October of 2023, LAPD received a grant from the California Board of State and Community Corrections, BSCC, for $15 million to supposedly thwart against organized retail theft. This is a fiction. The National Organizational Retail Board actually came out and said, actually, yeah, organized retail theft isn't really happening. The state of California is still running with it. We have a slew of legislation criminalizing organized retail theft, but it never really happened. This department, of course, was at the vanguard of pushing this narrative in service of the expansion of these real-time crime centers. The project was called Project Blue Light. It's named after Project Green Light in Detroit, a program that uses CCTV and integrates facial recognition technology to increase criminalization. Detroit has notable instances of wrongful arrests, even a wrongful conviction due to facial recognition technology. It's a junk science that's inherently racist, and this department wants to model itself after that. So real-time crime centers in function is just a consolidation of all these cameras and the implementation of a software called Fusus One to consolidate all this data. Now, Fusus One can take video feeds from body-worn video that your officers have, from robot dogs, from CCTV cameras belonging to private stores. It then aggregates that data in a lot of the same way Palantir does. So why all this kind of expansion? Why all these extra cameras? Who is it going to keep safe, especially if it's tied to a narrative that hasn't really happened? Well, I think looking at where this technology is being implemented can tell us. Central Division is a site of poverty in this city, right? A site of houselessness, a site of violence that communities experience because of police, particularly sweeps, right? So if this fiction of organized retail theft doesn't exist, we can understand that these cameras and this technology will help the LAPD continue to push unhoused people out, continue to brutalize people on the whole, and continue to criminalize people time and time again. As the coalition has said in the past regarding records management systems and other data aggregation software systems, it's just a deluge of data, an unsurmountable amount of data. And with that amount of data, the LAPD can tell whatever story they want. And the story they usually tell is one to justify violence against our communities. I yield the rest of my time.
Next, we have Mona M. Mona M., you're on.
Yes, sorry about that. It took me a second to get unmuted. Thank you for your time. After today's session, I would like to ask for interaction with the chief's office. Today, I want to inform you of the nationwide presence you are getting. There's an abusive human trafficking cult that we have all been coming to you week after week. Yesterday, in a neighborhood council commission, there was one streamer with over 32,000 views just for that. Last night at the neighborhood council meeting, there was a small channel that was streaming with over 12,000 views just since last night. How does this relate to you? Let me quote something for you. It's from the Dianetics Doctrine. A 7-year-old girl should not shudder at being passionately kissed. And a policy, quote, creating an effect drill. Get into the guise of a nurse or doctor in a hospital or medical facility to the point where you give an order or direction to someone inside the facility and they completely, fully believe in your identity. Do what you say. This causes an effect and a trouble for the person that you can report. A course given to children from adults or to adults from children as young as 6 years old, they're asked these questions. Have you ever stolen anything? Have you ever masturbated? Have you ever cut out a tongue? Have you ever smothered a baby? Those are real questions straight from the courses. Now, as bad as that sounds, they must word clear, which means completely understand each word. So for the word masturbate, they must show to the point of acting out the words on dolls or clay models that they completely understand what it means. Children. These are children. Per federal, state, and city law, and I'm going to paraphrase, criminal activities cannot be hidden behind a curtain of religion. For gosh sakes, it's time to stop this abuse, physical and sexual. I want to say worse words than gosh. And the human trafficking that happens in your city as we speak. Thank you, and I yield back my time.
The next speaker, Jamie Cusick.
All right, I want to address closed session item A1 about the use of one of your police dogs to chase and bite someone suspected of stealing a car last September. Unarmed 23-year-old Daniel Montiel was on foot and running away from and hiding from a fleet of cops, and he ended up having to go to the hospital to get treated for his injuries. I don't believe it would be okay to deliberately make an animal attack a fleeing human being in any situation. But to be clear, Daniel had not been observed to be doing anything remotely resembling violence. He was allegedly just taking a car, which, let me remind you, he had not been proven to have been taking. He was unconvicted of anything when he got sent to the hospital with wounds inflicted by an attack dog. But of course we know that police can use any type or amount of force they want on anyone for any reason without fear of reprisal, in large part because of their unquestioning defense by this commission. More importantly though, the fact that he was reappropriating a piece of property is just not a big deal. Week after week, we have to listen to you motherfuckers whine about retail theft, burglaries, and other kinds of property theft. Let me just tell you that as one of the civilians whose voices you claim to represent, I do not care about property theft. It would not occur in a society in which everyone was getting all of their needs met. And it is by design that the state denies people those needs. The instances of property theft that are actual injustices are the cases in which unhoused folks get their tents and possessions, their only means of survival, stolen from them by you people, like in the sweep you fuckers did 2 weeks ago in Skid Row in 102-degree weather. Turning people out of their homes, their only source of shade, without water, without access to non-existent cooling stations, in unnatural, inclement, murderous weather, that property theft is an act of violence. And while we're on the topic, no one is a bigger theft of resources than LAPD. The more than $8 million per day of our money that you spend represents the theft of roofs from our heads and food from our mouths. I also, separately, I want to address some remarks that you made last week, Rasha. You asked Choi to ensure that in a few weeks he makes some presentations at an upcoming commission meeting, drawing from the Above and Beyond award ceremony that LAP just had, so that, quote, the commissioners and the community as well can see some of the good things you do that they might not be aware of. What the fuck, Rasha? Your job is to be a watchdog of the police on behalf of the community. Your job is to oversee them on behalf of us, the civilians. You're not supposed to be helping them with their public image. You're not supposed to be selling them to us. It's moments of flagrant, unabashed hypocrisy like these that really bring home the fact that this commission is a sham, it's not a real committee, and as long as you want to keep up this charade.
Thank you. Your time is up. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Jason Reedy.
All right, so on September 3rd, LAPD PIG from 77th Division fired their weapon at Brian Rodriguez. It's now September 17th, 2 weeks later, and that name of your shooter has still not been released. Can anyone on this Board of Commissioners answer why that's the case? 14 days waiting to release the name of somebody who shot at a community member. Is that okay with y'all? Is it? Why is it that I have to come up here time after time and tell you about how the LAPD is not releasing the names of their shooters within the 72 hour or after their 72-hour report? Why am I the one that has to always come up here and tell you about that shit so it can get released? I shouldn't have to be doing that, again, because you guys are supposed to be my voice, right, on this fucking commission. Now, Fabian, why did you donate to Kevin De Leon in April of this year? You donated to him, right? Yes or no? Did you? Yeah, oh yeah. You donated in April, right? That's your buddy, right? Racist council member Kevin De Leon. You donated to him, yes or no? You want to say anything, Fabian? I mean, Rasha, you donated to, what's his name? Sam Yepri. I mean, it shows that, you know, you have this bias towards Zionism and everything. You donated to his campaign multiple times, yes? Yes? Okay, so 22 pigs that are graduating this Friday. I don't know if that was in the report. I missed part of the report. 1 black pig in your last 3, in this graduating class. In the last 3 graduating pig classes, you only had 4 black pigs. Every meaningful black organization in LA is outpacing y'all in recruitment. But Arrow Southers is telling our community, specifically the black community, that black people love LAPD. But obviously that's not the case because, again, real organizations that are doing the work on the ground are recruiting more black people than y'all. I want to also speak to, again, the broken Twitter threads is another issue that I've brought up in regards to the release of that information. That's why the community is so confused as to whether or not you would kill 2 community members, whether another community member killed another community member, and then you killed that community member. We oftentimes don't know because the release of your Twitter threads are broken, and that's on purpose. That's to conceal vital information that needs to go out to the public. Why is it that in the simplest thing, a thread on Twitter, your officers can't get that correct? Why is that an issue? Would you like to speak on that, Blake? Blake, I want to know why your name was on emails around me, yes, me, when KDL assaulted me in December of 2022. Your names were on emails despite you being in the West Bureau. Why were you involved?
Okay, sir, your time is up. Next speaker, please.
Next, we have Steve Riley.
Good morning. All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
9/11 was not mentioned last week. 9/11/2001 was not mentioned on the lapdonline.org website. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for all the police officers, firefighters, and all victims of that tragic day. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. Chief Chow mentioned the Bunker Hill fire at 877 North Bunker Hill, which is the residential area just west of Chinatown proper. And I saw in the news that one of the neighbors on that block mentioned that there was that location where the fire began is under construction and that there were transients squatting at the location. That the representative, the city council person, Hernandez had been notified, that office, LAPD had been notified, and yet nothing was done. And you see the tragic result. Firefighters injured, members of the public, the residents injured and displaced. This is what happens when preventive measures are not taken. If a person is squatting on property, trespassing, there must be a law that can be applied to clear that location. And that resident spoke of how she attempted and was frustrated by the lack of action to get action, and it didn't happen. Let that be a lesson. When people don't do their jobs at whatever level, there are severe consequences. Let's pray for the people who've been displaced and the people who are injured, the firefighters and the civilians. Now, going to the survey. I did read the survey. I encourage everyone to look at it. 4D. I submitted a letter addressing some of the issues regarding that survey. I do not understand why a person's sexual orientation is necessary in a survey. Can you explain that to me, Django Sibley? I mean, we have words like pansexual, gay, queer. I'm using the words there. Is that really relevant? I don't believe it is relevant. Let's focus on public safety. We love the LAPD, the community. We support them. The Heart of LAPD event, I'm glad that Vice President Shields went to that. I don't know who else sitting up there today was at that event, but we want our officers to know we support them. We support community policing, but there are also some things that need to be brought up. Lies, some lies occur, and the fish stinks from the head. And whether it's the federal, state, or local government, there's some lies that have occurred. One lie, by the way, that was mentioned is that the Police Protective League donates to, they don't, it's Police Foundation.
The next speaker is Donald Harland.
Agenda items A and C and general comment. First of all, I would mention to the forensic science and evidence, the agenda items about forensic sciences and evidence and property. It may be that people gaining seniority or access to that may need to be blocked from entering. I'm noticing a big problem, a lot of cover-ups, previous cases that are solved, maybe they haven't been brought to justice yet. People taking information from the case and republishing it with different people and different actors. Somebody's trying to get paid for it, or people just replacing people, or trying to enter the country illegally. So that the forensic sciences and the evidence and property, I'm really concerned about. I noticed some implications and collusion with some of the Los Angeles Police Department that are here, that they wanted to cover up a case they're related to in the history and had tried to replace the people and republish the case, and that there's a big problem there. Agenda item C, real-time crime centers. I'm concerned about the real-time crime centers used for cover-ups. I'm concerned that some of the data will be used to cover up. I am encouraged about those things. I don't want them creating alternate police forces. There's not to be alternate law enforcement set up nowhere in the city. There needs to be some way to report on your coworkers on that. What I'm seeing here is a carousel, real estate, police commissioners. You guys, people come through here through this police commission and they develop a bunch of real estate and say, hey, I'm retiring, and they run. And it's like a carousel, just repeating one after another. And you guys are just the next ones. You guys look like a bunch of FBI flunks. Like you failed the FBI. That's what you guys look like up here. Another thing is, if everybody was busted out of the police commission before, or everybody retired, the mayor's appointments don't mean a thing. That person posing as Karen Bass is not Karen Bass. That person that's posing as the mayor, Karen Bass, cannot issue any orders to LAPD. She cannot make any appointments to LAPD. She could send a representative to see what's going on or make comments or suggestions, but that person doesn't have any say, and she should not be appointing anybody here into the police commission.
The next speaker is Adam.
Sorry, I'm texting. Good morning. My name's Adam from the Los Angeles Community Action Network. Matios brought up violence in Central Division and mentioned sweeps. And I think it's important that we think about the violence of sweeps. When we think about the violence of sweeps, we definitely need to look at the outcomes of those sweeps, particularly in violently over-policed neighborhoods like Skid Row, which Jamie alluded to, where people are routinely swept, their rights violated, their property thrown away under a guise of public health. And while sanitation is theoretically in charge of these sweeps, sweeps are a key example of a policy of like procedural reform coming out of multiple lawsuits in that case that purport to do what is ultimately violence in a better way, in a quote-unquote better way. It legitimizes that violence as it's couched in these policy updates and reforms, but when we see sweeps in action, we see, for example, 2 weeks ago, which I mentioned last week on the phone, and sorry you guys still haven't figured out the rules of Zoom muting in the last 4 years, but Officers Lanier and Marquez tased a member of Los Angeles Community Action Network during a sweep, and that wasn't reported as a use of force. So when we think about uses of force and what gets reported here every week, what actually gets counted? And I think like thinking about the procedural reforms and other policy updates that were applied to the police violence, you know, DBA use of force in this department, like body cams, like the video release policy, de-escalation policies and trainings, and the proliferation of non-lethal weapons. All this does is, one, resource this department more, but legitimize the violence that's happening every day across this city, and again, and particularly in places like Skid Row, and particularly against Black people. There was a use of force by Officer Lanier and Officer Marquez in May that, again, was not reported at this police commission meeting. It's in an arrest report, it's listed as a use of force, but it doesn't get reported out as one. Officer Lanier and Marquez arrested Matios at a sweep in Skid Row a month and a half ago. And this is just 2 officers, so when we think about the violence that's happening every day, and the fucking procedural reforms and bullshit that comes out of this commission, and that you all go home at night feeling better about, being like, well, it's a better, more reformed police department. The violence happens, the violence is being legitimized and legitimated by these policies and by your actions, by your affirmative actions in so-called role as the oversight of this police department.
Okay, we have already exceeded public comment by about 5 minutes, but I will take one more person on Zoom and one more person in the room. Madam Secretary?
Next, we have Dwight.
Okay, good morning, all items. I want to focus specifically on 4D. But before that, let me discuss something else. You know, I noticed that Catholics are not represented here in Los Angeles by the LAPD. I don't understand it. You guys have your charts on this thing. I don't know, you guys reference all kinds of weird stuff. I don't understand how you're using this to pick the police chief. I really don't understand any of it because it's, you know, 0.03%. That's not even a margin of error. The margin of error for statistics is plus minus 0.3 or 3%. You got 0.03%. And you said also here in this survey, you also said that you used community input sessions. When were they conducted? Who was invited to that? I mean, there's 4 million people in Los Angeles. It doesn't make sense.
Sir, please
What kind of?
stop speaking. Sorry, not you on the phone.
Oh,
but
okay,
someone in
well,
the room.
okay, well, but it's odd because, you know, out of 4 million people, I figured that you guys would have wanted to sample more people than this. At least show a good faith effort, more than 0.03% of the population picking the police chief. And then I see the numbers in there of all the little survey things you did in there, and they're high numbers. Well, yeah, because you had a low number of participants, so it's really skewed. I don't think you even use this survey for anything. It's not worth anything. You know, a portion of it, they're employees that you're surveying. You know, how is that valid? And then age, okay, well, age, that makes sense. Okay, we can use that, but why race and ethnicity? Why is that used? And why is sexual orientation used? That's odd. And then you go from sexual orientation to gender. I mean, come on, that's just crazy. I get that there's people in the world that are homosexual. I get that, just like everybody else does. But why is that used in a survey to pick the police chief? Why can't we just say the population? There's male and female, or there's, I don't know. It's crazy to do that in a survey for the police chief. It makes me think you guys aren't serious. It's very childish, like, you know, to do a survey like this. So I guess it falls on the person that put the survey together. But you guys have your label on there. I mean, is this Karen Bass's survey? It would make sense if it was her survey. I mean, we know who she is, a radical. But you know, it goes all along the lines of everything you guys are doing in Los Angeles now. You hate people of faith. It's clear, unless you're a certain faith, probably. Maybe if you're a Satanist, you're a candidate here in Los Angeles, or you don't say it, but you know, there's a lot of Christians here in Los Angeles, and you guys don't even represent any of us. We're not part of the system here. I don't get it. A lot of us don't get it. You know, you guys took over our park. They already stole our land in Los Angeles. The little St. Sarah Park, they took that away. And Karen Bass was spearheading that. Stolen property. They're just trying to foist onto us what they claim we're all for.
The next speaker is Jonathan Foster.
And this will be the last speaker.
Will I do is extend a thank you. You know, one thing I've noticed, we tell the commission, but it doesn't necessarily make it to all the officers. On the hires, rehires and stuff, or not rehires, but hiring people, you know, I personally had wanted to see 1,000 per year. So if we added on 1,000 per year, that would take 8 years to get to 16,000. That's what I'd like to see, 16,000 officers. And I had mentioned President Johnson in 2018 talking about the, you know, all the shoot 'em ups and everything. And one of the things I still haven't gotten to it, there's so many other issues in my life. But anyways, is he said that the use of the rifles had went up dramatically. And then later on they shot Valentina Peralta with the rifle. So another comment, one man's merely by suspicion. Merely by suspicion is not another man's probable cause, right? You got to have probable cause. You can't pull over merely by suspicion, which is, they're getting away with some of that stuff. Now, I saw a video about somebody shot at the LAPD with a machine gun. Boy, what a dirtbag. And my reaction is that car can be shot full of holes. Anytime you see it, it can be hit by any police car at any time. They should have just hit this guy to the road with any car that was a police car. shoot him. Okay. Today, though, on Henderson today, there were no shields, there were no head-to-toe body armor. The brave officers running around with a guy, but they really should have had shields and maybe head-to-toe body armor. And then he said, you turn over or you're going to get shot again. Was the wrong thing to really say to a guy. So last week, I said, so I finished with it, was a 12-year-old that had become a lawyer, and his sister's 11-year-old. She has the record. She's an 11-year-old lawyer. And if I had children, this would be my children. They would be 12, 11, 12, 13 years old, passing the bar exam. And I talked and related that to how the 4 gang members could have made $400,000 like the 17-year-old girl on YouTube. And actually, you know what? Each individual could have made $400,000 each instead of ripping off catalytic converters. And as a total, that would be $1,600,000 of, made money. And so what was happening? Let's say Johnny Wachter didn't get shot. But here he had a good job on General Hospital. He was trying to sock away extra money as a bartender, and then he was going to have to unload $1,000 to $2,000 all of a sudden on a catalytic converter. And when I said, "Is that all we get out of this community?" I wasn't talking about the Latinos. I was talking about the gang community, and that's all we get out of them is death. I'm sorry. God bless you.
Thank you, and that concludes public comment. So we'll move on to item 3 on the agenda. Do any of the commissioners have any questions about items 3A through 3G?
No.
Okay, then I would move that we adopt the recommendations and board actions for 3A through 3G. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. So that'll take us to item number 4. We'll go to item 4A, the department's verbal presentation relative to an overview of Forensic Science Division. And can you please all introduce yourselves before you get started? Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Gabe Nanapragasam. I am the commanding officer for the LAPD's Forensic Science Division. This is Christina Takeshita, the laboratory director for Forensic Science Division. I'd just like to share, this is quite appropriate, this week is National Forensic Science Week. And so with that, it is an honor to be here and to communicate the services of Forensic Science Division. Christina has 29 years with the Forensic Science Division. She started off as a student professional worker at the Trace Analysis Unit, has worked at serology and DNA, narcotics analysis, and is currently our laboratory director. Has been a great partner of mine. Just had to share that. Forensic Science Division's mission statement is provide forensic science services to the criminal justice system with the highest degree of quality, huge emphasis on quality, and ethical standards. Process and analyze evidence in a timely and cost-effective manner. Assist the department in achieving its goals and support the department's investigations. Maintain a working environment that fosters the development of the employee and encourage the development and implementation of new technologies. Forensic Science Division is the country's first crime lab. It was established in July of 1923. We're the second largest in the United States, second to the FBI. There's a multitude of forensic disciplines, including the Field Investigation Unit, also known as Crime Scene Investigation, Firearm Analysis Unit, the Narcotics Analysis Unit, the Toxicology Unit, the Trace Analysis Unit, and the Serology and DNA Unit. We're constantly looking at strengthening Forensic Science Division's organizational resilience. We're looking at methods, we're looking at systems. Most importantly, we value our human capital resources. This is the team of Forensic Science Division. So just wanted to say thank you to the City of Los Angeles, to the Los Angeles Police Department for the support in filling the criminalist and forensic science division positions, including lab tech, systems, administration. 2 years ago, the division had about 16% vacancy rate. Today, we're at 5% vacancy rate, thanks in large part to the support. The division's about 200 position authorities today. So with that, we are always looking to hire, and we're thinking about the future. So I'd like to open and welcome the communities to visit the City of Los Angeles' Personnel Department's website. The criminalist exam is continuous. We encourage our communities to apply for the positions. The minimum requirements is a bachelor's in physical or natural sciences.
Okay, before we get into the services, we're going to talk about our quality assurance unit. They're responsible for maintaining the laboratory's accreditation. ANAB is an outside accrediting body, meaning auditors from outside the department and the City of LA conduct annual assessments of the Forensic Science Division. The Quality Assurance Unit ensures that technical procedures are properly followed so results are accurate and reliable. They maintain the laboratory's quality management system for continuous improvement. There are hundreds of requirements the laboratory must conform to in all aspects of analytical processes, including evidence collection, analysis, data review, reporting, training, and competency. Accreditation is essential and gives Forensic Science Division the ability to apply to many large state and federal grants. The quality of the services provided to the communities is the foundation of the division.
Forensic Science Division is also responsible for the Field Investigation Unit, also known as Crime Scene Investigation. Response to crime scenes, including officer-involved shootings, to identify, collect, and preserve evidence that may require additional analysis from other units of Forensic Science Division. The unit is committed to maintaining a robust team of criminalists that are trained in all aspects of evidence collection. The Field Investigation Unit utilizes a 3D scanner which captures a crime scene in under 2 minutes. In the efforts to continuously strengthen our organizational resilience, we are cross-training staff currently within the subdisciplines of Field Investigation Unit and the Firearm Analysis Unit, so we can respond to the most complex and multitude of scenes. 3D diagram.
The Firearm Analysis Unit performs examinations and comparisons of microscope markings on fired bullets and discharged cartridge cases. Criminalists go through an extensive modular training program that takes up to 4 years to complete. They utilize the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, or NIBIN database, to provide ballistic investigative leads. Images from marks on discharged cartridge cases, or DCCs, are uploaded into NIBIN for possible hits to other cases. All DCCs collected throughout the city are automatically brought to FSD for upload into NIBIN. In addition, all handguns received are test-fired and the DCCs are uploaded into NIBIN. Both processes are completed within 48 hours of receipt. These processes were part of the department's strategic plan to expand new technologies to improve efficiencies. The final milestone was completed in the first quarter of this year.
Forensic Science Division is also responsible for the Narcotics and Toxicology and Trace Analysis Unit. The narcotics analysis is responsible for the testing of narcotics evidence suspected of containing controlled substances. Analysis is completed within the time constraints of filing charges, often within 48 hours of arrest. The toxicology unit is comprised of 2 details. You have the alcohol detail and the drug detail. The alcohol detail examines evidence samples collected from driving under the influence cases and maintains and calibrates breath alcohol instruments throughout the city of Los Angeles. The unit also trains LAPD and California Highway Patrol officers to operate the breath alcohol instruments. The drug detail examines blood and urine evidence for the presence of drugs of abuse and urine samples related to drug-facilitated sexual assaults. The drug detail has received CHP grants to purchase instrumentation to give them the ability to detect a broader scope of substances. For example, the toxicology unit purchased a blood analyzing system that that can detect several substances, not just one. This was a Los Angeles Police Department strategic goal for 2024 and 25, and the milestone has already been met. The Trace Analysis Unit, let me go back a little bit. The Trace Analysis Unit examines and compares physical evidence samples, including footwear or tire tread impressions, fire debris for ignitable liquids, gunshot residue, paint, and other unknown chemicals. The unit also performs fracture matching on hit-and-run investigations.
And finally, the Serology DNA unit. Their primary activities are screening or the identification of biological tissues and fluids, the development of DNA profiles, comparison of those profiles to known individuals, and to provide statistical results. Screening is the process of locating probative biological material such as blood, semen, and saliva. Once the biological material is collected, batch processing with robotics is used to perform DNA typing. DNA typing is a multi-step process to develop a DNA profile from evidence. The DNA profile is then compared to a known individual to either include or exclude as the source. The Serology DNA unit receives federal grants to give us the ability to continue to modernize technology and be on the cutting edge of DNA analysis. California legislation requires the testing of sexual assaults within 120 days, and that's sexual assault kits. The Serology DNA unit far exceeds that requirement and completes all DNA analysis regardless of the type of crime within 90 days. After DNA typing, the unknown DNA profile is uploaded into the Combined DNA Index System, or CODIS database. CODIS is a national database managed by the FBI and Cal DOJ that stores and compares millions of DNA profiles from convicted offenders, arrestees, and evidence from crime scenes. The database is used to search these profiles, linking crimes to each other or to known offenders.
And that concludes our presentation of an overview of Forensic Science Division. Try to keep it in 10 minutes, so it was a lot. And we are open to any questions the Board of Police Commissioners may have.
Wonderful. Thank you both for that wonderful presentation. I'll turn to Commissioner Garcia first for questions.
No questions, just a thank you. This is definitely interesting, and I'd actually like to go visit.
Absolutely.
If we get a tour, that would be amazing. Yeah,
We would
thank
love that. Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Kalanche.
Sure, thank you. I also want to go visit.
Please,
Absolutely, yes.
Well, thank you so much for that presentation. I feel like I watch a lot of shows on TV and I kind of know the lingo, but to actually see it in action would be amazing. I have a couple of questions. When there's a crime, do you respond to every crime scene, or what is the protocol? Like, what are the crime scenes that we would send, like a field, a CSI or a field investigator, or, yeah. So if you could explain that process, like what constitutes like a call out for your team?
Sure, I can start off with a quick overview and then jump in. So the crime scene investigation team, field investigation unit, responds to about 350 scenes a year. So averages about one per day. Most of those are homicides, involving homicides. About 75% of those actually are homicides.
So would we respond to every homicide?
Not every homicide. Our investigators have been trained for basic evidence collection involving like touch DNA, which accounts for a good portion of our evidence collection. Not every call is being responded to. There was training that was provided to our investigators to do that collection and book that evidence.
What type of call would not get an for what reason would an investigator not be deployed?
It's up to the investigator that is assigned to the scene. If they need additional support, we'll respond and assist those investigators. So
maybe maybe a complex situation or something. Okay, got
yeah.
it. So then our officers are trained in some evidence collection.
It's a basic evidence collection.
Got it.
Touch DNA is a huge part of it, and if it's straightforward, the officers have been trained to collect that. If they feel like they need support, or if it's more complex, we will roll out.
Okay, wonderful. That's good to know. And then I wanted to ask you more about the 3D scan. How does that work? So, I mean, you're scanning a crime scene and then it's replicated, or how did, yeah, curious
Yeah, I
about
can
that.
make a 3D diagram. What we used to do before we had the scanner is we would sketch out and draw
Yeah.
the rooms and where we're collecting the evidence. And with the 3D scanners, can do a quick scan, just a video scan, and dump it into the computer. And so we saves a lot of time and is a lot more accurate than
So it's like a
our
3D printer?
not a
Or-
3D printer. No, it just makes the diagram of
Oh,
the
got
crime
it, got
scene,
it.
so we don't have to do it by hand.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow, they're
Yeah.
getting like a 3D printout of the scene. Okay, wonderful. And then congrats on the being able to complete the sexual assault test and analysis in 9 days, you said?
90 days. So
90 days.
Legislation requires 120 days, and we complete our sexual assault kit analysis within 90, and every other DNA request, analysis request we get.
So it could be property crime, it could
Right.
be any sort of evidence that's booked. Everything is completed within 90 days,
Oh,
not
wow.
just sexual assaults. On top of that, with the sexual assault kits, Forensic Science Division takes samples from every single swab collected from a victim, which is not the practice out there. It's not not a requirement or a mandate from state law. Forensic Science Division does that.
That's wonderful to hear. I'm just really impressed, and I would love to see more of it in person.
Great.
Congratulations on Forensic Science Day, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just echo some of the comments that the other commissioners mentioned. And really, you know, the work that you're doing is what TV shows are made of. And being a lawyer, I have to watch a lot of bad lawyer shows. How do you feel watching some of the CSI, Dexter stuff? Is it at all close to reality?
Sometimes they get it right, but it's the timing. Not everything is done within an hour. Commercials, you know, that's the only.
Yeah, it would be very boring if they followed your day-to-day.
Exactly, definitely.
And our accreditation requirements, there's a huge process there. I mean, validation of instruments, our methods, even the calibration of instruments. So things don't just happen overnight. Our training program could last 3 to 4 years, depending on what the subdiscipline is. So what's most important to Forensic Science Division, I could say for the laboratory director, is the quality of the science methods, that it's being performed correctly, because that's what the communities expect, and there shouldn't be anything less.
And one question, just to back everyone up, you know, within the department, we hear about the distinction between sworn and civilians. And civilian are basically professionals that work within the department that are not sworn officers. Both of you are civilians, is that correct?
That's right.
And how about the bulk of the Forensic Science Division? Are you mostly civilian, or are there any sworn within that?
Yeah, so the division is 200 position authorities. There are 5 police officers assigned to the division. There are 4 police officer 2s and one police officer 3.
So the vast majority are the civilian staff. And this is just a great example of how, like, the civilian staff, as we call them, is just the backbone of the entire department. So you may not get the credit that you deserve as often as you do, but really the officers could not do their jobs effectively without you all. So thank you for everything that you all are doing. And one final question, you know, it's it sounds like, you know, this department has really been leading the industry here with the second largest crime lab, second only to the FBI. Do you ever get requests from neighboring agencies or assist other agencies to process their evidence in certain crimes?
Limited. The resources are really dedicated to the community of Los Angeles, so we use our resources for that primarily. Every now and again, we may help another agency, but it's far and few between. But there is a close-knit forensic community, particularly in Southern California, that if somebody needs something, we will help. We are fortunate enough to be housed, our lab is housed with Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, and we have a very good partnership with that agency. So if they help us a lot as the county forensic lab, but if they ever needed help, we could help them too. But primarily our focus is on the city of LA.
Excellent. Thank you all.
If I
Yes.
could, just very quickly, Gabe and Christine are being very humble today. They run a world-renowned forensics lab that is recognized around the world. When you take your tour there, you're going to meet some of the most professional, caring analysts that you will ever meet anywhere. And I always tell them when I go there that their job is important because they're speaking for victims that can no longer speak. But on the other side of the coin, they're also exonerating people that are innocent. And that's sometimes that we don't really speak about that, but that's also something that they do. And as you know, the crime lab is actually on the property of Cal State LA, and it was really started with a lot of hard work by our former police commissioner, Rose Ochi, many years ago when the crime lab was started. So Christine had mentioned that they're co-located with the sheriffs. There were instances where these analysts are so good they come up with their own procedures that make processing forensics more efficient, that they share with one another and come up with their new procedures because they're so good at what they do.
That's wonderful additional comments. Thank you, Assistant Chief Chow. And thank you both for being here and for the great presentation.
Thank you very much.
Vice President, Commissioner Shields, thank you so much. Board of Police Commissioners, thank you. Chief, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to regular agenda item 4B, the department's report relative to evidence and property management division audit. And please introduce yourselves and
Yes.
thank you.
Well, good morning, Commission, Commissioners, Chief, and everyone else here today. My name is Lieutenant Sean Svoboda. I'm from Audit Division. I'm the acting CO currently, and I'm here today to share with you a brief overview of the Evidence and Property Management Division audit, which was conducted in accordance with the annual audit plan for 2024. So in looking at the policies and procedures related to Evidence and Property Management Division, this audit tested 7 objectives in 4 primary areas, which include the following: the safeguarding of property and EPMD facilities, the documentation of chain of custody, the proper documentation of the sexual assault evidence numbers in the property reports, and that narcotics checkout procedures were followed. The report revealed that the department received a 90 to 100% compliance in all but one area. And this area was the safeguarding of property and evidence, safeguarding of property in Evidence and Property Management Division facilities, specifically regarding the proper functioning of the video surveillance and panic alarm systems. So Audit Division then met with Evidence and Property Management Division, who were in general agreement with the findings, and they have addressed the issues by working with Facilities Management Division to assess and install panic alarms as necessary. And representatives from EPMD are here with us if the board has any additional questions for them.
Excellent. Commissioner Kalanche?
Just if you can talk a little bit more about the 46% of the panic alarms.
Hi, good morning. My name is John Glitz, and I'm the Assistant Commanding Officer at Evidence and Property Management Division. So panic alarms were unable to be tested for a lengthy period of time. What we did is we made a request to Facilities Management. They were able to go test some of those. Some of them they were not. And the ones they did test all passed. The ones they did not, they're in the process of working with the correct city entity to get those tested. The panic alarms are on 2 different systems. So one was through a vendor, and that was very easy to take care of. The other one is through another city department. A request has been made to them to come out and test the alarms. ITA.
ITA. And where are the panic alarms? Are they behind the desk or?
So it varies by station.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. Just curious. Thank you.
Commissioner Garcia.
Why are some of them with a vendor and some of them with the city?
I don't know all the history. I can get back to you on that if you like. Essentially, we did have a switch over in some of the key coding systems, and I suspect that's part of it. The way we access the property rooms has changed in the last couple of years, but I would need to follow up on that to give you a completely correct answer.
Okay, thank you.
And I just had a question about the audit because, the one that had the 46% or so, it seems like it's lumping in two different things, like video surveillance and panic alarms. Were both an issue, or were there video surveillance but not the working panic alarms?
Well, if I turn you over to my colleague, Wendy Gamble, she can discuss the details of the sampling and how that was compiled.
So when we went to the facilities, we were testing for both things. So the number that you see would be either or, and we documented it further, and we sent an addenda out to the division. So it either did not have a panic alarm that was functioning, or it didn't have a surveillance. Either one of those not being in place would be a finding.
And do we know what the breakdown is of the 24 facilities, of how many didn't have functioning videos versus how many did not have like the functioning panic alarms?
Yes, we do have a breakdown of that. I could provide you that if you'd like to see that.
Okay, but you don't have that right now. So you don't know right now just which ones
Not
are
right
which?
now, I don't.
Okay, no problem.
Also, due to some security concerns, it would be better to do that offline
Got
just
it.
to make sure that we cover
Understood.
that base.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. I do have a concern that back in 2019, the percentage was 56%, and then years later, we're now going down another 10%. So we weren't great back in 2019, and it's only decreased since then. So how do we actually make this a priority, especially given some of the notes that were indicated of like, look, this is a true safety concern for people who are working in that area. What needs to happen in order for us to get that percentage above passing?
Hi. As I said previously, we have addressed the situation in some of the stations, and the request has been put in to address the situation in the other stations. Additionally, we're taking steps to memorialize the process we're going through now so that it's testing continues on a yearly basis every year, and there's actual instructions set forth for people to follow. As far as the video cameras go, I'll just note that we did submit a request also for those to be installed where they are not. And I'll just note that it's been done in the prior two audits as well, which we both had a low compliance rate on this portion, and the funding has not ever been available.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. I was going to ask you to help follow up on that so that if other city departments are not responding as quickly as they should, and whether we need to find another vendor or something to take over that if they're not getting responses, let's make sure we move that so that next time around that one doesn't come to another failing score. Thank you. Thank you all for both groups for the presentation. And with that, I would recommend that we approve the department's report. Is there a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Department report is approved. As I mentioned at the outset of the meeting, that agenda item 4C has been withdrawn from the agenda item and will be rescheduled. So that leads us to item 4D, the Executive Director's verbal presentation relative to the Chief of Police Selection Survey and Community Input Meeting results.
Thank you, Commissioner. So this report summarizes two of the major efforts that were undertaken to provide the public and other stakeholders an opportunity to provide input during the Chief of Police selection process. The first of those efforts is one that was carried out not by the Commission, but by the city's personnel department in the form of an online survey. And I'll talk a little about what that survey discovered. And then, secondly, I'm going to talk about a series of community input meetings that were held by police commissioners and that provided a variety of groups and stakeholders the opportunity to express their views on what they felt was important as the city searches for its next chief of the Los Angeles Police Department. So to begin with the survey, it was administered over a 4-week period. It was carried out online. The survey was made available in multiple language formats and ultimately received 1,326 responses from members of the public. The findings of the survey, to just summarize the main points, respondents overwhelmingly favored a chief of police whose characteristics included the following. They wanted to see a chief who had integrity, trustworthiness, fairness, honesty, and transparency. They would like to see a chief who treats employees fairly and who holds them accountable. They would like a chief who's a strong leader and a person who has credibility within the department and also credibility with the community. Other factors that were identified by survey respondents as desirable characteristics included that the person selected for chief be an inspirational leader, that they have a deep understanding and respect for the Los Angeles or for the city of LA's communities, and that that person can implement constitutional and community-based policing. And of relevance to this body, that that person respect and welcome civilian oversight. In terms of the experience, respondents indicated that they felt were important for the next chief. They would like to see a chief who has experience developing meaningful solutions to prevent and reduce crime, a chief who has experience implementing initiatives to improve the recruitment and retention of police officers, and a chief who has experience addressing concerns raised by stakeholders to include community members, employees, and city officials. In terms of the priorities that the survey respondents identified as being important for the next chief of police, number one was crime prevention and reduction. Second was improving response times and ensuring a timely response to emergency calls for service. And thirdly, a priority identified by the survey was the improvement of recruitment and retention efforts for police officers. So that is, in summary, the key findings of the City Personnel Department survey. Moving on to the community input meetings. The Police Commission undertook a series of community input meetings that provided members of the public and other stakeholders the opportunity to express their views to the Commission regarding the characteristics and qualities that they wanted to see in the candidate selected for the next chief of police. And this was one of the ways in which the Commission was able to receive that input to inform its own role in that selection process. In total, 26 meetings were held. Additionally, commissioners heard from the public during the public comment sessions of these weekly meetings, in addition to other community events and department events that commissioners attended over the summer. At each of the meetings, one or two commissioners was available or was present to hear from the public. 21 of those meetings were attended by 2 commissioners, and 5 of those were attended by 1 commissioner. The groups that were engaged in these meetings range from council districts and their constituents, employee unions, community partners, and also citywide meetings were held where anybody who lives and works in the city was invited to attend. At each of these meetings, 3 questions were posed to focus the discussion, although participants were free to offer whatever commentary they wished to provide the commissioners. The 3 questions were as follows. Number 1, What qualities, characteristics, and experiences do you feel are most important for the next chief of the Los Angeles Police Department? Number 2, what unique aspects of your community do you want the next chief of police to know about and to consider? And number 3, what issues do you think the next chief of police will need to address to better support your community? So, the report goes through meeting by meeting the key issues that were raised by the participants in each of those meetings. I'm not going to go through each of those points. What I am going to do is just talk about some of the main issues that came through overall through this series of meetings. A point that came through loud and clear from the public and from employee groups was that the job should go to the most qualified candidates, irrespective of the race or gender or other identity type factors of a particular individual, that it was qualifications and experience that really counts. People would like to see a chief of police who's a visionary leader and who is courageous in his or her decision making and will not be swayed unduly by political considerations when making decisions as the leader of the police department. Something that came through perhaps more strongly than anything else during this series of meetings was the sentiment that the person who is selected to serve as the next chief should be very familiar with the city of Los Angeles, that they should know the communities in the city, that they should ideally have connections with communities in the city, and really just know their way around what I think we would all recognize to be a very large and complex city. Additionally, there was a strong desire that the individual be very familiar with the organization and culture of the Los Angeles Police Department. The feeling was regularly expressed that that kind of familiarity would be necessary to succeed as the chief of police, and particularly among the members of the public who expressed a view. There was a sense that somebody from within the Los Angeles Police Department may be best positioned to succeed in those regards, because they would have that familiarity and that knowledge both of the city and of the organization itself. Something else that came through very strongly across all of the meetings really was that the next chief should be somebody who strongly embraces and supports a community-based approach to policing and an approach that includes partnering with the community in efforts to provide good police service to the city. Many meeting participants indicated a desire to have strong and open lines of communication between their communities and the chief of police. They would like to see a chief of police that listens to the community, that provides service that reflects the interests and the concerns of their communities and of other communities in the city. Related to that, there was several meetings where the topic of the community safety partnership was raised, and with meeting participants indicating that they would like to see a chief who would support and expand the community safety partnership. In terms of priorities that people would like to see the next chief of police address, crime reduction, I think, was number one. People want to be safe. They want to have less crime in their neighborhoods. Also, people are concerned about traffic safety and would like to see the roads of the city of Los Angeles become a safer place to travel on. We also had a number of people talk about public safety on public transport, and just the general sense that crime reduction should be something that the next chief really focuses on. Another issue that came through loud and clear as a priority people would like to see the new chief address is that of officer retention and recruitment. There's a widespread feeling that the city needs a fully staffed police department, and that the person selected to serve as the next chief of police should prioritize the need to attract more applicants to the police department, both in terms of recruiting officers and also recruiting civilian employees. Also, the need to retain our employees and avoid a situation where employees come here, work for a few years, and sometimes transfer to other agencies. Related to the concern for recruitment and retention was a need that was expressed by many employee groups, but also by members of the public, for the next chief to prioritize officer morale and to work to improve officer morale in the face of what some people perceive as a department that has lower morale than would be desired. Also in connection with that, the need to support employee wellness and to support a couple of perceived disconnects that came up in a number of the meetings, one of those being a disconnect between the department's command staff and its rank and file officers, and also between the sworn employees of the department and its civilian workforce. And there was a consistent message that came through the meetings that people would like to see those divides, to the extent that they exist, would like to see them reduced and see all employees treated equitably within the organization. An issue that came up as well, particularly with the employee groups, is that there is a perception of unfairness at times in the way that discipline is implemented in the department. And that is in part connected to the command staff rank and file division that I just referenced, where there's a perception among the rank and file employees that they are subject to more harsh discipline than the more senior ranking members of the department, and that the next chief of police would be, they would wish that the next chief of police would address that issue. And then finally, an issue that came up very consistently through the meetings was the importance of ensuring that the department has an effective patrol function. With respect to the members of the public who spoke to us during these meetings, we often heard that people want to see the police present in the neighborhood, patrolling the streets of their communities, and also when people do need to call the police for service, that they receive a quick response to those calls for service. It was also, this was an issue that was referenced by the employee groups as well, that they would like to see patrol operations better supported, as that is in many ways the backbone of the service that the Los Angeles Police Department provides. So, commissioners, those are the main points that came out of the survey and the series of meetings, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Sibley. I'll start with Commissioner Garcia, if you have any questions or comments.
None, thank you.
Commissioner Calanche.
Sure, thank you for the report. I just want to thank all the commission staff. There was a lot of meetings that were scheduled where staff had to work either evenings or weekends to make these Zoom meetings happen. So thank you. I think it was a really great opportunity to meet with the public. A lot of the participants voiced that they would love to have more conversations with commissioners. So I think it's something that we are considering. But I just wanted to just thank everyone for making these happen.
Thank you. Yes, and I'll echo that, especially the thanks to the commission staff for doing all of this in such a short period of time, and also to all of the people who participated, both responding to a survey, and we know that it's a small sample, so we use it for what it's worth. Like it's a directional thing, but it's not a conclusion that this is what everyone in Los Angeles thinks, but it's something helpful. So, but for the members of the public who took the time to take the survey, thank you. We obviously can't force people to take those surveys, but they were made available. And I too think that those community input sessions, I think are so valuable, and I'd love to see more of that throughout the year, just generally. I know we had talked about doing more of these like commission meetings in the public, and that has raised, I mean, we've done 2 of them. We were going to do them quarterly, but there were some logistical issues that came up, like not being able to stream live and other things like that. And so doing these smaller group sessions where we didn't have the clock of 3 minutes and we could actually have dialogue with members of the community, I found so invaluable. And really want to thank, some of the council district council members who helped advertise those community input sessions so that they would draw on the community to participate. And so I think those types of venues, and we only had one or two at any given time so that it wasn't a Brown Act meeting. It's not that we weren't interested, but that's the only reason we limited it to two. So I would say for looking in the future, I would see more of those happening throughout the year in addition to our regularly scheduled board meetings here at the commission. And so thank you for the really helpful summaries. And we had, as commissioners, we had the benefit of knowing the survey results and also having had participated in the community input sessions while we were formulating the questions that we would ask the candidates for the police chief, and also while we were making a decision as to who would be the top three that we would hand over to the mayor. So we had the benefit of that, but we wanted to also make it public through this report and also provide it to the mayor and the mayor's staff before the mayor makes the ultimate decision. And so wanted all of that information to be available. But again, hopefully this was a big endeavor. And again, as President Southers has said over and over again, one of the toughest decisions and hardest and most important decisions that this commission will ever make. And so we took that very seriously. So thank you, Mr. Sibley, Acting Executive Director, Mr. Sibley, for putting that all together. And I will, just to highlight one thing that is in your report, but I just want to highlight is that, the kind of the caveat at the outset of the summaries of the input sessions is that it's not that everyone in that input session believed one specific thing that's in a bullet, right? It could have been expressed by one person and it's included there. So don't think like, oh, this group, this is all what the group thought. That's not true, that it is just a representative sample of the things that we were hearing. So with that, thank you. And I don't think there's any board action for this one, but really appreciate both the work that it took to put these materials together. And with that, before we move on to closed session, I would ask, Madam Secretary, can we please have President Southers appear before we go into closed session?
Good morning. I will be attending closed session remotely for agenda items 5A, B, C, and D, and there is no other person present with me in the room. Thank you.
Thank you. And President Southers, one clarification, I believe it's items A, B, and C this time around. And we will go into closed session now to discuss items 5A through 5C. Thank you so much.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss items number 5A, B, and C in accordance to Government Code 54957.
Okay, the commission has returned from closed session, and I'll ask the Acting Executive Director, Mr. Sibley, to please report on items 5A through 5C.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Beginning with item 5A1, Canine Contact 051-23. At the regular meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners on September 17th, 2024, during the closed session, the board made the following findings. For canine deployment consistent with established criteria, 1 police officer, 3. That finding was reached by a 3-1 vote, with the 3 being Commissioners Southers, Shields, and Garcia, and the 1 being Commissioner Calanche. For canine contact, consistent with established criteria, 1 police officer, 3 by a 4-0 vote, and post-canine contact procedures, consistent with established criteria, 1 police officer, 3 by a 4-0 vote. On to item 5A2, officer-involved shooting 053-23. By a 4-0 vote, the Commission adopted the following findings. For tactics, tactical debrief, 2 police officers, 2. For drawing and exhibition of a firearm, in policy, no further action, 2 police officers, 2. And for lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer, 2. For item 5A3, non-tactical unintentional discharge 058-23, the Commission adopted the following findings by a 4-0 vote. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 police officer, 2. For drawing and exhibition of a firearm, does not apply. For unintentional discharge, negligent discharge, administrative disapproval, 1 police officer, 2. For item 5B, the matter was discussed, and for item 5C, the matter was discussed. And that concludes the report out.
Thank you so much. I now move to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you so much. Meeting is adjourned.